through storms, unshaken, unbowed. Through trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it loud. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key. Make the big switch. Power to the people. Time to teach the rich. Legal battles can't hold him. He's moving on. With plans so bold, from dusk till dawn. He's rewriting the rules. A new dawn's day. From the hands of the few to the people's way. Say goodbye to all chains, embrace the new. A financial revolution, fair and true. For the workers, the dreamers, side by side. In Trump's new era, let freedom rise. Changing the wind.
Welcome, everyone, to the Crazy Cryptonaut channel. I am Zester, and thank you guys so much for joining me this fine Monday morning. With the time change, I'm actually on the same time schedule now as the East Coast. And so that would actually mean that for me on my end, this stream is now 1 hour earlier than it has been for the past 4 months, but it means we're on the same time schedule. So I can no longer give anyone on the East Coast any type of, 1 hour ahead of time predictions. No longer 1 hour in the future. Good morning to everyone. Good morning, Mile High Trish. Happy Monday to you. Good morning, Kukla. Good morning. Good morning, Tout va bien. Good morning. I hope you're feeling better, Zester. Thank you so much. I am definitely not 100%. I had quite the combo of ailments at the end of last week. And so, as a heads up today, I don't know how long we'll go on the stream, but I wanted to hang out, say hello to everybody, and at least get to answer some questions and talk a little crypto and a little bit of what's going on in the world. So, thank you guys so much for all of the well wishes. I am getting better. I've got the right medicine. I'm on the right track. What's up, Crazy Chester? Good morning. Good morning. Yes, please do, guys. Please do remember the content in this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes, not intended to provide financial advice. Please consult with a financial professional before making investment decisions. An important one. Google Zester, you still sound sick. Yeah, still a little bit at this point. It tends to get a bit better later in the day, but I'm still fighting it. But there's too much to do. Things got to happen. Good morning, Mary Jones. Good morning, Tammy. Good morning, Cindy. Good morning to all. And yeah, nice, Trish. 1 hour earlier for you too. Well, I guess that's not necessarily a good thing on your end. You must be having really early mornings now. Oh, thank you so much, Cindy. And thank you so much, June. Good morning, Michelle. No, thank you guys. But we're going to jump in and talk a little bit about what's going on around the world. I actually found a really cool new tool that Jeremy sent along or gave me a heads up on this morning. We might check that out for a little while. But otherwise, we are going to go through a little bit of the news and see what's going on. All right. It is, guys. I know I do still sound a little sick, but at this point, I think I've got to get up. I've got to go about stuff. Otherwise, I'm just not going to get all of the gunk out of my sinuses and out of my chest. All right. So yes, with that all said, let's go ahead and start checking it. because yeah, I want to make certain we get through a lot of the important news today, just in case I do at any point need to take a break. So let's jump straight into it. All right, guys. Overall, the market is looking pretty much exactly as it was last week when we had our last show. Bitcoin sitting at 68,926, Ethereum over 2K, XRP sitting at $1.36. Now, over the past week, we were looking a heck of a lot better there for a few days overall, but we are currently still sitting with Bitcoin below 70K. We had gotten back above 70K for just a short amount of time, as there seemed to be a lot of unfettered optimism regarding the Clarity Act, but we'll talk about that one as well. One thing, though, an interesting one, NASDAQ and Kraken teaming up to trade tokenized stocks. We've talked about this one in the past when NASDAQ was actually buying shares into Gemini. And so remember, that was when we last covered this. NASDAQ was actually buying shares of Gemini, another cryptocurrency exchange. Now it appears the NASDAQ is partnering with Kraken in order to bring tokenized stocks. Tokenized stocks. NASDAQ plans to work with Kraken to distribute tokenized versions of public stocks globally as the exchange pushes to bring blockchain infrastructure into traditional markets. Kraken will distribute one-to-one tokenized versions of public stocks to customers in Europe and other international markets. NASDAQ says token holders would retain the same governance rights as traditional shareholders, including voting and dividends. This initiative builds on NASDAQ's proposal to the SEC to allow tokenized versions of listed stocks and ETFs to trade alongside traditional shares. All right. Well, we'd been talking about it. I think everyone had been getting the warnings out there. Everything is going to be tokenized. The stock market is no different. You're going to start seeing tokenized stock shares. You're going to start seeing 24/7 stock markets. Remember, we also talked just about a month ago, the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, is moving over to 24/7 and moving also over to the blockchain. You're going to see this continue to happen. Ultimately, right now, they're saying this is primarily for international consumers. This allows for people around the world to participate in the US stock market without all of the hassle. And so I think at this point, they said that this would begin trading in 22 different countries around the world. I believe was the starting number where they will be able to start purchasing publicly traded American stocks in a tokenized form. Undoubtedly, you're going to start seeing this also offered in the United States because of the fact that it's a 24/7 market. It's the liquidity. It's all those other opportunities that you can go out and use that tokenized share for. And so this one, we knew this was coming, but I think it is a little surprising to see NASDAQ partnering up with Kraken on it when we know already that NASDAQ has been getting in bed with Gemini. All right. Trump has made a statement, or well, not Trump himself, more the Trump administration has made a statement. And they made that statement in regards to the national cybersecurity strategy, where they have now brought crypto security into the conversation. And they're actually discussing not only protections for government servers. They're not only talking about what are we going to do in a quantum computing era in order to keep our information and our data safe. They're now also including blockchains. How are we going to keep our crypto blockchains, our cryptocurrency infrastructure safe from a quantum computing future? I thought this one would be very interesting for everyone out there. This is a conversation I know has been being had for many, many years in regards to our financial system. Regularly have heard about it in terms or in regards to, a quantum financial system. I know I've talked about that one countless times. In my mind, what's far more important is a quantum resistant financial system. Ultimately, what it runs on is far less important than if it is quantum resistant. This conversation has been coming up in the cryptocurrency space recently, as Bitcoin has had proposals up discussing how it can further become more and more resistant to quantum attacks. And so naturally, it seems as if federal government is kind of going through the same conversation that the crypto sector is currently going through, where crypto has been talking about this a lot for the past couple of months, mainly because of the influence of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has already started to show us what a supercomputer, what a quantum computer light might look like. And because of artificial intelligence, we started to see naturally security flaws being exploited. And so this conversation is now being had in the crypto space, but also as a part of US national security, which I believe it absolutely should be a part of. Beyond just our infrastructure, cryptocurrency and these blockchains are going to be just as important for us to protect as a lot of other things that have typically been deemed to be national security. And when I say that, I mean, think about industries that have typically been, the steel industry, petroleum industries, cybersecurity industries have always been a matter of national security. Now we're seeing crypto and blockchain get tied into national cybersecurity strategy. I think that makes a lot of sense. And it falls very much in line with what Trump has said. He wants crypto technology, crypto innovation, blockchain technology to really be headquartered and pioneered in the United States of America. And that means we're going to have to protect that industry. And that means we're going to be looking out for the likes of China, North Korea, and countless other nations who might try to exploit that at some point in time. I think it's an important conversation. I think it's interesting, very interesting, when you consider the timing of this conversation with everything going on. We've got so much going on the global stage that is moving us towards a new financial system. And now we also have this conversation about quantum security occurring at the same time. I think that these things absolutely go hand in hand. I think the conversation is being had now, well, because the conversation has become relevant now. It's now we are on a trajectory towards quantum computing. Does it exist today? No. Will it exist sometime in the near future? Well, it appears as if a lot of folks out there believe that it will, and that means we've got to start planning for it. I will say certain crypto blockchains are already considered to be at least partially quantum resistant. Some of them are, some of them aren't. This is an important thing for us to know and for consumers to know as we move into the future, which blockchains are, which blockchains aren't, and just how secure are they. Ultimately, keep in mind that most blockchains would require a monumental degree of control in order to actually take them over. And so even with a quantum computer and even without upgrades, it would still be difficult. But it would not be impossible. And so this is a conversation that is going to be going on, a conversation that we as a community have been having for a very long time in regards to security and concern about this. Well, it appears as if the White House has the same concern going into the future. Are our systems going to be quantum resistant? And so I'm going to go ahead and pop this one into the chat. Figure that might be a link some folks might want to share around, because that's one that the headline doesn't look near as interesting from a global currency standpoint, as it really ends up being when you start to read into it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, highly would recommend checking that one out if you are curious about the whole quantum resistance standpoint. All right, though. Let's get over to the Clarity Act. What all has happened? We did get a little bit of information. And well, according to Rosalia here, the banks are winning, but let's dig into it. The banks are winning one battle. Here's what that means for the other. This is in regards to the Clarity Act. Clarity Act is stalled in the Senate. Banks rejected the White House compromise on March 5th. And so, 4 days ago, the compromise that had been put forth on the 3rd ended up being refused by the banking lobby on March 5th. Remember, Trump made his entire statement on cryptocurrency, talking about how the banks are being greedy, yada, 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 talking about how they were essentially stalling this bill to the detriment of the American people. That did not convince the banking lobby to back down. The banking lobby didn't back down an inch, maintained their current arguments, and so it appears as if the banks are not going to back down. This one is unfortunate. I think I and many others were hoping that Trump's statement and Trump finally calling out the banks would really put enough pressure onto the banking lobby to force them to back down. But, well, it didn't work this time. Banking lobbies came back and refused the compromise on the 5th. Now, where this is interesting, and I really, really, really like this article, actually, because I think it does a great job of breaking things down, because it really, we'll jump into the article, but what it really shows is that this is a very, very odd argument, because we've been talking about it for a while. Centralized exchanges are becoming banks. We saw that absolutely with Kraken just last week becoming the first cryptocurrency exchange to receive a Federal Reserve master account. Cryptocurrency exchanges are becoming banks. Banks, the old banks, are fighting cryptocurrencies becoming banks, but they're also fighting cryptocurrencies in regards to the blockchain technology, the things that they can offer, the yield on stablecoins. And so it's very, very odd. And I think this article lays it out better than I just explained it there, because at the same time as the banks are rejecting these compromises, crypto firms are rushing to get OCC trust bank charters. These two stories are the same story. Two fights, one war. March 5th, the ABA, that is the American Bankers Association, formally rejected a compromise the White House had spent weeks brokering on the Clarity Act. The U.S. banking industry is fighting the crypto sector on two fronts at the same time. In Congress, it is blocking legislation that would give crypto companies a statutory framework to operate under federal law. Now, at the OCC, it is opposing a wave of charter applications that would give those same companies a regulatory home inside the federal banking system. The outcome of each fight shapes the other, and right now, the banks are winning the legislative one. I really love how they broke this one down, and I think that this is an important point to make, is that it's a two-front war from the banking standpoint. The banks are trying to keep the centralized exchanges from becoming banks, but they're also trying to keep the centralized exchanges from offering these stablecoin yields. They're trying to block them at both roads. And that's why cryptocurrency companies like Ripple and others have been pursuing both bank charters, but also pursuing the legislative route, constantly lobbying for crypto policy on the legislative side, but also continue to pursue banking licenses on an alternate route because they're essentially in a two-front war with the banks. I really liked how they placed this into context. We're going to keep going through this article a bit, but I'm going to go ahead and throw that one in the chat for those who do want to be able to follow along. Uh-huh. And of course, I've got to take 1 second for a congratulations to Fabienne. Zester, I have $320 worth of XRP and rewards with my Gemini card in less than 2 months. That is awesome. That is so awesome. Congratulations. And it adds up. And right now, we are collecting these rewards while the market is down. You can, in many ways, view yourself as your dollar cost averaging, because whenever you make that purchase with that card that you were already going to make, and you get that XRP in rewards, you're getting it, you're buying it at whatever the price of XRP is at that exact moment. And so your $320 worth of XRP is with XRP sitting at $1.36. It's going to be very exciting to see our rewards when XRP is sitting at, let's say, $13, in which case, Toot Fabienne, when XRP is sitting at $13, you would not have $320 worth of XRP. You'd have $3,200 worth of XRP. And so it's going to be very exciting to look at our rewards and what we've been putting together without changing anything once the market starts to turn around. Then it's going to be very exciting to look at that. I'm imagining in a couple of years, because of programs like this, even folks who didn't take it really seriously, didn't move everything over, didn't go nuts, didn't try to, send a referral link to everyone they know, even those folks, if you manage to collect, hundreds of dollars, maybe $1,000 in rewards over the time, it could easily be a house down payment, buying a car, paying off credit cards and debt in the future. It's going to be very exciting. That's awesome to hear, though, too, Fabienne. I'm very happy to hear that. And I hope other folks out there have been having similar results with it. I need to go back. We need to do an update on mine and see where we are sitting at on that one. I have been with trying to avoid looking at the total portfolio. I need to check that one out, see where we're at. I've just been continuing to build. Oh, not yours. Hey, Zester, glad you're back and feeling better. Oh, thank you so much. Not yours. I am glad to be back. I'm hoping in the next couple of days I will be back to 100%. All right, though, let's jump back over here and check out a little bit more of this article. There were a few other things in here that I did want to discuss again, and then we'll start jumping around the rest of the articles. And so we already know Digital Clarity Act passed the House on July 17th of 2025 by a 294 to 134 vote. And so this was a bipartisan passing in the House. And I think this is important to remember. This was a bipartisan bill in the House of Representatives. Now, was it entirely? No. The vast majority of the 134 nay votes came from the Democratic Party. And the vast majority of them essentially said the reason they voted no was because they believed that the Trump family would benefit from the passage of the Clarity Act. And that really was their logic. And so this is very frustrating when you look at those numbers and then you see how we are currently dealing with the Senate. And that's where you can very easily see where the banks came in. Ultimately, the banks obviously were not all that worried. They were not harassing the House of Representatives. Now they have decided that it's very important, and they're holding it hostage in the Senate. The division is designed to remove the regulatory ambiguity that has left crypto companies uncertain for years about which rulebook applies to their products. The Senate Banking Committee was scheduled to debate and vote on the amendments in January of 2026, The hearing was postponed indefinitely. White House set the March 1st deadline, as we all know. Deadline passed without published text. But we did hear, as we discussed on the 3rd, we all read through President Trump's post on Truth Social, where he called out the banks for what they were doing. And as I said earlier, unfortunately, just 2 days later on the 5th, the ABA rejected the White House compromise. Anyway, all right. So, as we know, all comes down to the stable coin yield. As of right now, though, what we're starting to have to worry about, and we've talked about this one as well, guys, is really the biggest problem is the calendar at this point. Ultimately, we've got the banks fighting tooth and nail. In the end, the banks will lose. But if the banks succeed in pushing this close enough to midterms, they may be able to give themselves quite a head start, a lot of extra time. Because on the same days that crypto legislation was stalling in Washington, the United States was conducting military strikes against Iran. Trump administration described the operation publicly. We all know the rest of that. But the important thing here, as Brian Gardner, chief Washington strategist at Stifel, wrote, the conflict is making it significantly harder for Congress to dedicate attention to crypto regulation. His assessment is that the legislative calendar is now working against the bill. Congress has a fixed number of working weeks before the midterm election cycle begins to dominate the schedule. Defense and foreign policy responses to an active military operation consume floor time, committee attention, and political capital, and the Clarity Act was already running behind. So, what happens if the bill dies? I'm going to go ahead. We're going to go through this little hypothetical. I do not believe that the bill is going to flat out die. I strongly believe that it is important enough to the Trump administration that they will find a way to at least force through the important parts of the framework, even if they have to rename it. But that would mean that technically the Clarity Act died. If that does occur, this is the question that connects directly to the OCC charter wave we reported on earlier this week. 11 companies filing for or receiving federal trust bank charter approvals in 83 days, with a new OCC rule taking effect April 1st. Now, a federal trust bank charter is not the same as a statute, does not resolve the security versus commodities classification question that the Clarity Act was designed to settle. It does not give crypto firms the legal certainty that comes from an act of Congress. What it does give them is a federal regulator, national operating authority, and a direct path to infrastructure that they previously had to rent from partner banks. For companies that have been waiting for the legislative route to produce results, the regulatory route is increasingly the practical alternative. The more the Clarity Act stalls, the more valuable an OCC charter becomes. Banks understand this. Their opposition to both the legislation and the charter wave is the same calculation applied to two different battlegrounds. Now, I apologize, guys. This is one of the articles where I'm doing a lot of reading along with it because it's got so much information inside of it. But remember, guys, you do have this one sitting in the chat also if you want to be able to go through this article. And so, fintech industry's narrowing options. The companies filing for OCC charters are not doing so as a fallback while they wait for Congress. Several of them, Circle, Ripple, Coinbase, have been amongst the most active lobbyists for the Clarity Act. They are pursuing both routes because both are open and because they cannot afford to bet the business on either one alone. If the Clarity Act passes with yield provisions intact, stablecoin issuers gain a statutory green light to compete directly with bank saving products. That's what we really want. Ultimately, that's what we really want. That's what's going to benefit the average consumer the most. It's a competitive free market in regards to savings products. If it passes without yield provisions, they get regulatory clarity, but lose the competitive tools banks were most afraid of. If it does not pass at all, the OCC charter becomes the primary vehicle for federal legitimacy, and the stablecoin yield question gets resolved through future rulemaking rather than legislation. None of these outcomes eliminate the crypto sector, but all of them change it. This one right here, I really, really like it. One paragraph, and really just 1, 2, 3 sentences. one slightly run-on sentence, but essentially 3 sentences breaks down the entire path forward, or our options for paths forward. And so on this one, guys, ultimately, as I said, we want option 1. Clarity Act passes with yield provisions intact. Stablecoin issuers gain a statutory green light to compete directly. That would be winning. That would be getting to have our cake and eat it too. Passes without the yield provisions, aka stablecoin yields, are not allowed for cryptocurrency exchanges, but we at least get the regulatory framework. That's not awesome. That is going to ensure that the banks get to maintain their monopoly on savings products for the foreseeable future. It's not optimal, but at least crypto companies get to start building inside of a framework. This would still be very beneficial for certain cryptocurrencies. This would still be helpful for XRP. It would still be helpful for Ethereum. It would still be helpful for Bitcoin. It would still be a win for the cryptocurrency markets. It would be. But it would absolutely be a win with an asterisk, because there would need to be another fight in the future. That is a pathway that benefits the cryptocurrency market substantially, but it really does not benefit the end user to the same degree. It would absolutely be a partial win if we were to see it pass without the yield provisions. So if they were to essentially win, the banking lobby gets what they want, and the crypto lobby capitulates, we pass the Clarity Act with no stable coins allowed, or no stablecoin yield allowed from these exchanges. That really would be suboptimal. But, and I think that this is the major but, if we start progressing towards the midterm election and we start to talk about this calendar issue that was discussed up here, if we start to get closer and closer and it gets to a point where it's either, hey, we're going to pass this thing and you're not going to be able to have yield on stable coins, but we're going to pass it, I have a sneaking suspicion that it may end up getting green lighted. That would be very much suboptimal. But as of right now, because of the calendar issue, because of the banking lobbies being unwilling to accept the White House compromises, I think we're either going to see the White House and Trump come out with a very, very, very strong standpoint, and he's going to force the issue. If he forces the issue, as we've talked about, if the American people understood this debate, I don't think the banking lobbies would be able to keep up their fight. Trump helped a lot on that front on the 3rd, but it obviously was not enough for the banking lobbies to capitulate. And so at this point, do we end up seeing a major compromise occur and no yield in order to get the bill passed? Do we see Trump come out and get more forceful with the banking lobbies? He made it very clear whose team he's on in this debate with his True Social post. He made it very, very clear. He is absolutely on Team Crypto on this one. He does not believe that the banks are presenting a legitimate argument. And so that would be suboptimal. Now, essentially, worst case scenario, though, is that the bill does not pass at all. And if the bill does not pass at all, then the OCC charters, the bank charters, and essentially these cryptocurrencies exchanges going, okay, if you're not going to create our own little framework, we're just going to force our way into the banking framework That way, the banks can't stop us. That is still a path forward. Cryptocurrency is still going to be just fine, but that would absolutely be considered the least optimal. If the compromise is suboptimal, the no passage at all would be the least optimal. Ultimately, we want for the Clarity Act to pass with yield provisions intact. There are a lot of other in-between routes here because that I don't, that aren't necessarily laid out in this article. There are in-betweens. There is the possibility that maybe yield would only be provided on peer-to-peer transactions, or that exchanges can't provide yield on stable coins if they're just sitting there on the exchange. They have to be actively doing something. There are other paths, but this essentially lays out the 3 paths forward. And now understand there's a million paths that all fit somewhere in between these 3. And that may be where we end up at. All right, let's see though. What have I missed? What have I missed? Not yours. Hey, Zester, glad you're back and feeling better. Thank you so much. Not yours. Zester needs a good bowl of lemon chicken soup. Yeah. I do. I need some more soup. Rich Roper, late again. Ron the Inventor on Mark C today. No worries, Rich. Happy to have you over here with us. Pamela, good morning, Zester. Glad you're feeling better. Question, have you done your deep dive on Kinesis? As I missed some of your videos. No, we have not done our deep dive on Kinesis yet, Pamela, but that one is definitely on the agenda. Absolutely. But no, you haven't missed that one yet, Pamela, but glad to have you over here. Good morning, Franco. Good morning. Jeremy, wind moon. That's always the question. Wind moon. Wind Lambo. All right. Let's jump back over to them, guys. And I will say my throat's starting to get there, guys. So I'm going to try to jump through the last of our articles. I had a lot of them today, but things honestly are all over the place when it comes down to it on the news. It's just all over the place. And more going on in regards to the Clarity Act. Yeah, this one, and honestly, I didn't really love this article near as much. It really is just breaking down the same thing. Unfortunately, we've kind of had the same conversation many times because of the delay on the Clarity Act. And because more and more people are becoming interested in it. As we've seen Trump come out and make his statements, as we've seen more folks become aware that the banks are essentially saying that the financial system in the United States will collapse if the yield provisions are left intact. More and more folks coming into the conversation. This one, in many ways, is just laying out exactly the same as the prior one. This, though, I thought was interesting. Very, very interesting opinion on this one. Clarity Act will actually benefit the banks more than cryptocurrency, according to former CFTC chair Christopher Giancarlo. Says banks more than crypto firms need the stalled digital asset market Clarity Act. All right, passage of the bill will provide the regulatory certainty required to invest in new digital payment infrastructure. The bill is stuck on whether crypto firms can pay rewards to stablecoin providers, which banks fear could spur capital flight. But John Carlos said there's a risk activity will shift to Europe and Asia, and he put the bill's chance of passing at roughly 60-40 after it missed the White House deadline. And so let's get to what he was talking about here. Why are the banks? The banks need this more than crypto. Their general counsels are telling their boards, you can't invest billions of dollars to build these digital rails unless you've got regulatory certainty. Banks can't afford regulatory uncertainty. And so the bill has been deadlocked since January. The rest of this very much goes on with what we've already talked about, but I think it's a very important point to be made. That while the banks continue to actually slow this process down, the banks are also essentially slowing down their ability to catch up. And so I thought this was an interesting point that he was making, is that the banks, in all honesty, need the regulatory framework more than the cryptocurrency exchanges. The cryptocurrency exchanges and these fintech companies are used to operating in a gray area. Banks don't want to operate in a gray area. They want the framework. And so what Giancarlo here is arguing is that essentially the banks are going to benefit more from the passage of it, because suddenly they're going to now be able to utilize all of their liquidity, all of this money and capital, to start investing in the new financial system. I thought it was an interesting point. It doesn't seem that the banks view it that way, so I'm not certain whether Giancarlo here is necessarily correct, because it would very much appear from the way that the banking lobby is acting that they don't view it that way. They view it as an existential threat. But as we've talked about, undoubtedly, banks and centralized exchanges are the same thing. The smart banks are aware of this. They know what's happening. I have to imagine that they are investing in this infrastructure despite the uncertainty. Pamela Flash, I got a text from someone last week to sign a petition to stop process. Gaslighting me with fear to have local banks losing deposits for loans and deposits. I just laughed and ignored. Pamela, that is very, very interesting. Got a text from someone to sign a petition to stop the Clarity Act process. I am not surprised to hear that at all. But that is crazy to think about, Pamela. Getting text from, obviously being paid for by the banking lobby, trying to fearmonger that exact idea that if this is done, if cryptocurrency exchanges can provide yield and can provide these financial services, then the U.S. economy is going to collapse. It's mutually assured destruction. It's an insane argument. If you really think about it, it's an insane argument that for us to even be having that argument in public is kind of crazy to imagine. But yeah, Pamela, and I'd love to see that text, and love to hear if anyone else is getting stuff like that. Reno, yep, sign the Clarity Act. Absolutely. I just want him to sign it as is. The House of Representatives passed it overwhelmingly passed it. And so when it comes down to it, I just do not believe the Senate arguments. They just don't add up. Okay. Pamela, the text was from Better Regulation. That's very interesting. I have to write down that little lobby group, because I don't think off the top of my head that I've ever seen that lobby group. Maybe I have and I just didn't notice, but I don't think I have. Why the can kicking delays when it comes to anything regarding money? Can kicking delays for what, 10 years now? We're exhausted. Absolutely, Reno. It is. It's exhausting, but they can keep this thing. They can keep kicking the can. They're going to keep kicking the can until somebody picks the can up and goes ahead and delivers it to the end zone. Until then, they're just going to keep kicking. But I do think it was interesting to see Giancarlo's comment on this one in regards to it. And it really does, if you think about it from that perspective, and you go, okay, that makes sense. The banks are, it does make sense. Banks are heavily, there's a lot of hands in that cookie jar. And so it makes sense. Ultimately, banks need the regulatory framework and clarity of the Clarity Act in order to start deploying their billions and billions, their trillions of dollars of capital towards the new financial system. So they need that framework in order to deploy that capital. The banks are indicating very apparently that the future is going to be in tokenization. We see that everywhere. Why would they be fighting so hard against this if they didn't know it was the future? They're fighting so hard because it's going to work. And so it's a very, very odd, it's not logical, in all honesty. If you step away from all the other conversations and you just look at it from that standpoint, the banks need the framework. The cryptocurrency exchanges need the framework. The banks are fighting for the framework to occur, but they need the framework to invest in the new financial system. The banks say we're moving towards a new financial system and that they're interested in being a part of it. And we can see that from where they're putting their dollars, from their partnerships, from their statements. We know that's where they're going. And yet the banks say that's where they're going, and yet they fight going there. It doesn't make a lot of sense, essentially, if you just take everybody at face value. It does not. All right, Zester, look up the DTCC. All right, we'll look at the DTCC, and I'll throw in keyword XRP there. I'll have that one being looked up, Frank, and we'll check that one out. Pamela, the last part of the text was sign a petition urging senators to close the crypto loophole and protect community banks and local loans. Wow. Pamela, yeah, gotta love how they bring that in too. They're like, yeah, no, this is not for us big, massive banks. If you let this pass, then mom and pop's little community bank on the corner that's been open for 200 years is going to go out of business. Yeah, Pamela, that is some serious conniving logic in regards to that advertising. That is some seriously conniving logic, trying to make you feel bad, like you're going to shut mom and pop down. No, Pamela, who you could potentially take a lot of power away from is the Bank of America, the Wells Fargos, the JP Morgans, the Goldman Sachs. Those people are the ones that you would be taking power away from. Unfortunately, when it comes to the local banks, when it comes to the community banks, that is such a silly thing for them to say. They're saying we're going to be the ones that break them. They're the ones that ran those companies out of business. The reason that you don't have local community banks is because of these major banking conglomerates, the too big to fail banks. That's the reason you don't have mom and pop banks and you don't have community banks. That's why you don't have them. It's that one's awfully funny for the banks to go trying to blame on somebody else. Literally, they destroyed the local banks. They destroyed the mom and pop operations. And now they're trying to convince you that if you allow for this crypto bill to pass, that it actually is going to be the cryptocurrency exchanges that are going to destroy the local banks. That just doesn't make any sense. That'd be like Walmart. That'd be like Walmart coming out and being like, no. It wasn't us that drove all the local convenience stores and grocery stores out of business. No. It wasn't us, Walmart. We didn't have anything to do with it. and instead, Walmart's going to try and blame you for it. Walmart's like, no. It wasn't our fault. It's your fault. You decided to come shop with us. That's some messed up logic. That is some messed up logic. Reno asking Frank, when will the illegal naked short selling stop? That is a great question. And that's why I would agree, though, with Frank on this. The new system has to come out and be implemented to stop wash trading everything on the blockchain. Ultimately, I think we've got to make that move over in order to even be able to enforce some of these things, because so much is just hidden until we really get to actually see the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. It's going to be very, very hard. And so, yes, I would have to agree, Frank. I think that we've got to make that move over in order to be able to stop these things. Yeah, Pam. Well, that's why I laugh so hard. I bank at a local community slash local bank. I always in North Carolina, I always had my local bank. Always had my local bank, and they were so much better than the Wells Fargo or anything else. I was so bummed, so bummed when I moved to Charlotte for work, and I did not have my local bank around me, and I had to go get like a Wells Fargo or something like that. I had never realized how spoiled I was. I was spoiled because for my entire life I'd been using a little operation called Bank of Oak Ridge that was in that area in North Carolina, and they just treated you like a real person. And I had no idea how bad it was until I moved away from a local bank and had to start dealing with Bank of America and Wells Fargo. Pamela, I just thought it was so weird since I live in South Dakota. Oh wow! Hey, South Dakota, they need your vote. Yeah, naked Reno Heights are naked short selling equals selling what you never own. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yep, pretty much nailed it. Roberto, sometimes you want to go where they know your name. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's go for a few more articles, and then I'm going to rest the voice. But let's pull this one up. Let's pull this one up because yeah, it went and did a little search for me, and of course AI helping me out here. DTC's DTCC's integration with XRP centers on two key developments. A DTCC patent identifying XRP and Stellar as digital liquidity tokens for cross-ledger settlement, and the listing of Ripple Prime, formerly Hidden Road, in the National Securities Clearing Corporation directory. And so, DTCC patent, newly surfaced patent from the DTCC names XRP and XLM as key liquidity tokens for framework in a framework for global asset tokenization. This patent outlines a cross-ledger system where XRP acts as a bridge to enable fast, interoperable settlement of tokenized assets across different blockchain networks, such as between the Stellar and Ripple networks. This signals growing institutional interest in blockchain-based liquidity solutions. All right, Ripple Prime NSCC listing, March 2nd. Ripple's Prime brokerage arm, now rebranded as Ripple Prime, was officially added to the NSCC Market Participant Identifiers Directory. This allows Ripple Prime to execute OTC trades through the legacy U.S. clearing infrastructure. While this is a significant step towards institutional integration, it does not mean that XRP Ledger is currently settling DTCC transactions. Its listing does enable Ripple Prime to operate as an executing broker, but no on-chain settlement on XRP Ledger has been confirmed. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Despite widespread speculation, DTCC is not settling $4 quadrillion on XRP Ledger. The NSCC listing is a regulatory and operational milestone, not a direct on-chain settlement event. Still describes itself as a global credit network. No explicit mention of XRP-L usage. Future migration to XRP remains aspirational, pending further implementation. Well, it's still very positive because it means that they are moving towards that. They are moving towards it. And so that's very cool, Frank. I'm glad that glad that we did look that one up while we had everybody here, because that one is very interesting, and it's a very positive step. Once again, it's a framework step. It's a by the rumor type step, but very positive. And we're seeing this on so many fronts, guys. When it comes down to it, XRP, it appears as if XRP is one of the others that is likely to receive a Federal Reserve master account in the coming months. XRP is moving rapidly towards tokenization. XRP ETFs continue to outperform essentially, well, not essentially, they outperform all other cryptocurrencies and digital assets for the year of 2026 so far. We've got a lot of really exciting news. When it comes down to it, though, the Clarity Act and the holdup there is a bummer. I don't think it's unexpected. I do remain hopeful that we still can see this being passed, or this at least being voted on before the end of the first quarter. At this point, it's starting to get a little scary on that front, but fingers crossed. I still think that we have a chance of that vote occurring in March. At this point, though, I really think we need Trump to come out again in an even stronger fashion. I was surprised to see the banking lobby deny the compromise on the 5th. I was fairly surprised. I thought that the Truth Social statement, that post from Trump, was going to be enough to force the banking lobbies to the table, and maybe to not have accepted the White House compromise, but to have at least presented another compromise themselves. It appears as if they did not. And so I think we're going to need more pressure coming from Trump on this one. That, or we're going to have to accept that yield on stablecoins is going to need to be another conversation in the future. And that's really, really, really suboptimal. And that's one where I'm kind of curious how bad that would end up being. I'm kind of curious. All right, though, I've got more articles, but I'm gonna just completely ditch that for our last 3 minutes or so before I get to go rest my voice. I'm gonna show you guys something that Jeremy just let me know about earlier today, and something that I think we're going to have to do some deep dives on. Something I'm planning on actually just immediately, having gone through it. I'm planning on doing something on the Mark Z Show with this at some point in the near future. This is a open source AI built situation room, essentially. And so sitdeck.com being the name of it. This is extremely, extremely cool. Wait till y'all see essentially what this allows. This is a global conflict map being sourced through open source outlets that is constantly putting together everything going on around the world, including the hotspots. Everything else allows for the tracking of different naval deployments, air deployments, land-based military deployments, tracking of commodity markets across the entire world. And it allows you to essentially build your entire AI dashboard of open source information. And so Jeremy had sent me this this morning and told me to check it out. I got a few minutes to kind of start looking through it and immediately went, oh my Lord, this is super, super cool. And so we're going to be jumping into this one. I'm going to try and build out a sit deck for the RV, specifically only including all of the operational data, all the important things for the RV. And so very, 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 very cool. Expect to see something from this in the near future. For those who do like playing around with cool tech, it does allow you to make a free account. And so if you do, guys, I think it's very, very cool. I'm still just starting to learn about it, but it is crazy. I wish I could increase sizes of some of these things because I've got conflict monitor down here. So let's go ahead and max out size on my conflict monitor. And so this is literally all open source, all AI derived, no bias, no anything. And it is picking up, so like right here, footage of the American airstrike that destroyed Iranian IRGC naval corvette. And then it actually goes through and directly links you to video proof of everything that is inside of the intelligence. And so like on this one, it linked me to the video proof of the American airstrike destroying another Iranian IRGC Soleimani-class corvette off the coast of Bandar Abbas. This is breaking news as of today. And so it managed to put this together. This occurred at 10:09 a.m. So this would have occurred 2 hours and 21 minutes ago. Situation Deck immediately got the proof and posted it up here 2 hours ago. And so that means that it managed to compile this essentially the minute that it occurred. Extremely cool. I'm just starting to learn about it and just starting to use it. But whenever I find cool things like that, I like to share them because I know that y'all are going to find even cooler things out there to do with it. And this one really is. This is so darn cool. I can specifically trigger it over and say, hey, I just want to know about terror attacks occurring around the globe. And so at this point in time, 0 reports as of right now, breaking terror. Sieges. I don't even know what siege indicates, but Bangladesh, a lot of this coming out of Bangladesh in regards to the Rohingya. And then, of course, right here are just the strikes going on all around the world. I mean, just in the past, we've got Iran releasing footage of the ballistic missile launch aimed towards Israel, UAE Ministry of Defense regarding Iranian drones, airstrikes pounding IRGC. It's extremely cool. And so, just something I wanted to show y'all about. I have the plan of doing one on here for folks that is just going to only include all of the different currency related indicators, all the news about Iraq, the Middle East, all the news coming out of Vietnam. I was going to try to set one up at some point soon because this is too darn cool. I mean, right here goes through all the trackable naval forces around the world. And so allows me to literally jump around, see where different aircraft carrier groups are, and also to go back through and see which countries' navies are where are they at, how large are certain nations. And so, right here, bam, I can come and be like, hey, I'd like to know where the Charles de Gaulle, that is the flagship of the French Navy. And now I can come over, click on View on Cruising Earth. And bam, it is going to go through and show me exactly where the French Navy is currently sitting at. Things like that, in my mind, are just so damn cool. And since it's entirely coming from open source, yes, it does also, not yours, it does also have Pentagon Pizza Index. I believe I set up the Pizza Index on this one. Did I? It doesn't look like I included the Pizza Index on this one, but you can go through and set it up to track anything that you want to track. I know it does have the Pentagon Pizza Index and all kinds of other tools. Super interesting. I just thought when I find a cool tool, I like to try and share it with folks. And so yeah, expect to see Sit Deck popping up on the Mark Z at some point soon. I may also make a Sit Deck specifically for crypto news. Might make it a heck of a lot easier for everyone in the community out there to be able to keep up with everything. So yeah, there's my little fun thing of the day, and something I'm really looking forward to playing with, because yeah, I've got a feeling a crypto Sit Deck and maybe a specifically an RV Sit Deck maybe in the near future. And so, all right, guys, my voice is starting to go out on me. My apologies for stream today. I tried to do my best with how I am currently feeling. I'm certain come Wednesday, everything will be a lot better. But with all of that said, love you guys. Thank you so much for joining. I will be back again 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. I hope everyone has an amazing, amazing week. Stay safe out there. Keep your popcorn bags ready because I am certain it's going to be another extremely, extremely interesting one. So, peace, guys. Stay safe.